Hello and welcome to the Mind Clinic. I am Chinyerugo, a clinical psychologist. On this episode of the Mind Clinic, we're going to be discussing how stress affects you. If you're a fan of the show, please do follow us on Instagram and on Twitter, and our handles are Neem Sanctuary. You can also reach us on WhatsApp on 0706 062 5054. On this episode, we're going to be speaking with a highly qualified psychologist. She's also experienced in her work. Her name is Rabia Anisa Idris. Before she speaks, I'm going to give you a little profile about her so you know who we're talking to. So she has certifications in social psychology, the science of well-being, psychotherapy, counseling, trauma-informed care practice, and cognitive behavior therapy. With a passion for helping people, she's dedicated her career to supporting individuals through challenging times and helping them achieve their personal goals. She's the owner of a private practice called Sane Mind Wellness and specializes in psychotherapy, counseling, and assessment. She has gained expertise in anxiety and depression, relationship issues, trauma, and stress management. So that's exactly why we have her here. She's an expert in stress management. But she also specializes in working with children and adolescents and helping them develop skills and strategies that they need to navigate life's challenges successfully. In addition to her private work, she also engages in community outreach efforts, including public speaking and engagements, educational workshop, and advocacy for mental health issues. Rabia's dedication to the field of psychology has earned her a reputation as a respected and influential member of the Nigerian Psychology Association and the American Social Psychology Network. Welcome to the program, Anisa.
Thank you, Chinny.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I feel honored to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
That's good. I'm glad. Are you feeling the stress that we're all feeling in Nigeria? Or are we the only ones going through it?
It's a universal stress, so we're all in it together.
Yeah, it's been a bumpy couple of weeks with the election, the financial up and down, the uncertainty that everybody has gone through. And I thought this was a very good time for us to go back to that conversation of stress and stress management. And for us, because the episode focuses on how stress affects you, we're going to talk a little bit more about it and get people to also start to look inwards and identify sometimes what stress is doing to you. Yeah. So let's say, why are we stressed? What is it about stress? Why are we stressed? What is it about it?
Okay, so stress in itself is a state of worry or mental tension caused by a difficult situation, or internally we have expectations and those expectations are not being met. Okay. Like you explained with the election season and all of that, some of us built a lot of expectations with regards to it, and disappointment has led us to feel helpless. And in that essence, we are stressed out. Stress is a natural human response that prompts us to address challenges and threats in our lives. However, it's important to note that small amount of stress can be helpful as it can improve performance. But when it comes in excess, that's when we need to cry for help or look inwards to find help. Stress can come from different things. It could be work-related. When you find yourself in a job where it exceeds your capacity, you find that you are generally always in a state of panic and fear, and that could lead to stress. Maybe your relationships with your family, romantic relationships, your friends. You can find a lot of times just a bit of strain in your relationship can cause you to internalize it so much so that it stresses you out. Financial crisis. Some people are in debt. Debt has shown so many times it affects our mental health in so many ways. Yeah. When you think about people in debt, debt in itself is one of the key driving factors for depression. It could also lead us to, we see a lot of people that have committed suicide that have made the choice to end their lives because of debt. We also have living from paycheck to paycheck. Adverse poverty, all of that. We have health issues. Maybe you are going through health challenges, or you're watching your loved one day by day their health is depleting, and it stresses you out, just that feeling of helplessness.
Yeah.
We have trauma. We have something we call the post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Whether you have experienced that trauma or you have secondhand knowledge of that trauma, it can stress you out. Your lifestyle, that's not talked about. The habits you have. Are you day in, day out scrolling through your phone from morning till night? That in itself can cause you stress. Your diet, what are you eating? A balanced diet can go a long way in distressing you. Exercises, the power of moving your body, getting enough sleep. For people that are religious, even their spiritual state can be affected. If you are in a great place spiritually, you find that you are less stressed than when you are not.
Yeah.
So stress is unique to every individual. We can't say that there's a single reason why anyone is stressed.
Yeah.
You just have to look inwards to identify what it is that is stressing you out.
You know, the funny thing is when you were speaking and you listen out the different things that could cause us stress, I'm just thinking, it sounds like an average Nigerian's day to day. Average Nigerian's day to day. So how, I'm thinking, so how are we managing? How do we keep going? And, why is it easier sometimes for us to get into a negative headspace and just why is it easier like that than to be in a positive state, even as we feel stress? Because I know we're going to talk about the other part of how to get out of it.
Yeah, that's true. So when stress affects our brain, and in that way, our brain releases a chemical called cortisol. Now, that chemical is a stress hormone. It's a fight or flight response. And what that means is when your mind perceives a threat, whether it's a physical threat or an emotional threat, it immediately releases that cortisol as a protectant. Now, in short bursts, like I mentioned earlier, when stress is within your capacity, it's more of a challenge and you're equal to it. When it's beyond your capacity, this cortisol is released in long doses. And those long doses, they take a toll on the way you think. And you start, because primarily when you are stressed, you're stuck in your mind most of the time. And our minds, as beautiful as they are, they're capable of exaggerating things. So you find that you're stuck in a pattern of thinking and rethinking the worst case scenarios. So right now, like you said, the state of the nation, we are all going through mental and emotional stress, one way or the other. So with that being said, we are sitting in our comfort zones or not, and we are overthinking the worst case scenarios, and that gives birth to the negative headspace most of us find ourselves in. It also gives birth to negative habits, because you find a lot of people are trying to soften the blow, and they go about it a negative way.
Yeah, definitely. You also said something that kind of resonated, the fact that, stress is inherent, it's always going to be there. So it's also about, the smaller doses prompt us to action, but when it's in large quantity, we suffer. And I wanted to know what other way, a lot of the times, the mental health, the way you think is connected to your body, is connected to how you feel. Are there other ways that stress can affect our body?
Of course. Stress can affect your physical health. Most recently, I think clinical psychologists are doing brilliant research work in how there is a direct link between the state of your mind and your physical health. You find that a lot of things happen to you and you tense up. So it settles in different parts of your body, and over time, when it goes unchecked, it becomes an illness for you. You have stress in itself, like I mentioned, it comes from overthinking most of the time. So that process, that whole you overthinking and rethinking the worst case scenario, you're causing a lot of stress in your hearts. And that leads to high blood pressure and a lot of cardio illnesses. It's a strain on your cardiovascular system. So definitely it takes a toll on your heart.
Mm-hmm.
You have muscle tensions, like I mentioned. We have headaches just from overthinking. A lot of times you find you have a headache. You have fatigue. It weakens your immune system. It takes away from your sleep, and lack of sleep eventually almost always leads to serious illnesses. So yes, stress can show up in that form. It can also affect your mental health. Stress will lead you to anxiety. Anxiety can lead you to burnout. Burnout will always lead you to depression if it goes unchecked. So it affects your cognition, your sleep patterns, and just your overall quality of life.
Yeah, definitely. So if left unchecked, we are setting ourselves up for, more harm than good.
Yes.
So for the average person who is constantly in this environment, let's say Nigerians, you and I, we're constantly in this space where you're trying to run away from stress, but I feel like stress is just chasing you. Like it feels like you can't escape. It just feels like, back to back. If it's not work, it's the society, it's the finance. You can't even get 100 naira from the ATM, and you're trying to survive. A lot of people are struggling because of the way the society is. How can a Nigerian in this state, or anybody in this state, become aware of their mind? Or what are the pointers? What are the signs that they need to be aware of? How can we be aware of our own state of mind? Because that's important. And because you have listed so many negative consequences of stress, how can we be aware of our state of mind?
Okay, I think that's a really beautiful question. One of the key things I share with most of my clients is engage in mindfulness exercise. Just the act of tuning out the world around you, because all of those stress, if you check them, are mostly external factors that settle inside of your mind, and then you internalize them and they become your problem. So tuning out the world around you and tuning inwards to your own feelings, just being in that, in solitude, you and your mind, and you're no longer thinking about the world around you, just you and your feelings, your emotions, what you're going through, how everything else has affected you. That goes a long way. And for a lot of people, when we talk about mindfulness exercises, we're talking about meditation, and people don't always, especially Nigerians, ascribe to that. They don't like the idea of meditation, and that's very understandable. So there are other ways you can be present. Just the act of being present in whatever you're doing is enough for you. Like right now, I'm sitting here with Chinny. We're talking about stress. There are a billion other things I could possibly be doing if I'm not here, and my mind has the tendency to wander to that place, but it's not. I'm just here. We're having a nice conversation, and I'm enjoying it. That goes a long way in helping you tune out that stress. And then you can also practice journaling, just the act of writing down your raw emotions unfiltered, because you're not thinking about being polite or hurting other people. This is you acknowledging and accepting your feelings in all the forms that they come in. So just writing it down in itself is a way to process all of those emotions that are happening for you. And then self-reflection. This is so important. To sit in solitude, it's just you and your mind. Ask yourself soul-searching questions. What's really going on? We can't get money from the ATM. Why is it affecting me so much? Just have that conversation the way you would with a loved one if they were going through something and you were an outside factor to it. It's very important. So I think with these 3 tips, they should help you be aware of where your mind is at.
I like the tip on having a conversation with yourself the way you would with your loved ones. It's almost like that element of some form of self-care, self-love. The same way we extend that concern and genuine concern about somebody, or sometimes we forget to give ourselves that concern and give ourselves that love of stepping back and just speaking to myself with love and a little bit of grace, and allowing yourself, not being too hard on yourself. Thank you for that excellent tip. On the other side, I wanted to ask, can stress be good?
Of course, when it comes in the amount that you're able to handle, your own capacity. And that's why we talk about like athletes, for example. You find that day in, day out, they are practicing and they're pushing limits just a little, just a little, just a little. And it's challenging and it keeps you alive. Stress often is also, they have the same chemical components as excitement when it comes in the right amount. But when you are pushed beyond your limits, beyond your capacity, it then becomes a burden to you. So stress can be good for you.
Yeah, in the right quantity.
In the right quantity, in the right amount.
Yeah, definitely. So just a last word from you. A little bit of a tip here and there. I know you've already mentioned these things, but just give us like just a few tips on how we can manage stress when we go through these ups and downs that we experience as individuals, as a nation, as a family, whatever it is. How can we manage the stress? How can we manage our stress levels to help us live a healthier life?
Okay. So you can, reducing stress and the impact of stress is very important in our day-to-day lives. And one of the key strategies I apply personally is just step back out of the situation. Just look at it, all of it, and ask yourself, what part of this is within my control and what part of it is outside of my control? Having that in mind, you knowing that this is what you can do, because you have no power over everything. You cannot micromanage every single thing that is happening. But in every situation, there are parts that fall within you, within your control. So try as much as possible to always step out of that stressful environment. Just have a broader view and ask yourself, okay, finding out that this is what I can do to control this and that. Take action with what you can control. The rest, what you can't control, you leave it the way it is. The world will take care of itself. There are other ways you could also, like I mentioned, journaling is one way to always check your stress, manage your stress. It helps you to identify triggers, to identify your stresses, the pattern in which the stress comes to you. Because the best way you can solve any problem is to get to the root cause of that problem. And in writing down things, you're able to track a pattern. If today you get stressed because of this, tomorrow because of that, next tomorrow because of... You're able to find a correlation between all of these stresses, all of these triggers. And in finding that pattern, it gives you a better view on how to solve the problem. And then you can talk about self-care too. I know with social media, self-care has been glamorized to look like something that is specifically for the rich. But self-care is universal. Just having good quality of sleep, good hours, that's self-care in itself. You can also eat healthy, like I mentioned before. You can just have a way to unwind after a very long day. Recently, I learned a Swedish word called ro, and it means tranquility and calm. And the philosophy of ro is to have a place where your mind finds calm and tranquility after a very, very long and difficult day. I personally use that for myself because my ro has become me journaling and enjoying a cup of tea every day. I have a kid and he's quite a noisy one, so I try to wake up earlier than he does so that I can enjoy that ro. And whenever, no matter how crazy the world is out there, I think about just coming home and having that me time, even if it's just for 15 minutes. That will go a long way for you. Exercising, moving your body, all of these things, they help you to distress. So yeah, I think tips should be helpful enough.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anissa. Those tips are really helpful, and I think I enjoy how practical they are. I think I enjoy how everybody can just do something, sleep, get a cup of tea, journal, move your body. These are things that we can do, every day that don't even require that much financial stress, because next thing somebody will say, I don't have money,
right?
So I always look for things that are cost effective that you can do every day, and life gives us those things that we can do. So thank you so much. Thank you for taking this time out to have this conversation with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thank you so much for listening. To you out there that's listening to this program, remember that we are on Instagram and we're on Twitter at Neem Sanctuary. If you like what you've heard, please follow us. Please share our content. Until the next episode, I want you to remember to stay mentally healthy. Thank you.